I'm Reverend David Schwartz, minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, and one of the things that I love about this congregation, well, actually a quick question first. Who in the room was born and raised and spent their whole life in Boulder? Right, Fred Cole is outside. Wait, yeah, Carl, all right. All right, we got one, and then an honorary two's on his way back. In between the services today, and actually after the service again today, myself and Rachel Alba, our Director of Religious Education, and Scott, our Community and Connection Manager, we sit back in the listening room through that back door back there to chat with newcomers and just give them a sense of what is this place, how do we do church, how do you get connected, how do you find your small community within the big community, all this stuff, getting to know each other. And one of the things that I appreciate so much about this community is that we've all, myself included, come from somewhere else to be here. We know what it is to be a stranger, and so a generous, honest, authentic, expansive welcome matters to every one of us. Because we've all been welcomed, we pass that thing forward to the next people walking through the door. I was in a church once where someone said, "I'm still a newcomer, I've only been here 7 years." I love that the person who's been here 3 times is already saying, "Oh yeah, the bathrooms are over there. Get some coffee." Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, especially to everyone visiting for the first time. If you're joining online, fill out a visitor form in the link in the description. We'd love to connect with you. Part of our mission is to connect bravely with each other. Many of us were seeking for something larger than ourselves to which we could belong, seeking for the sense of rootedness to hold us as we create meaning together, seeking a sense of community and connectedness and belonging, even as we follow our own idiosyncratic spiritual paths, always unique. That sense of community and connection is something we do well here, and deliberately not perfectly, because the goal is not to do everything perfectly. The goal is authenticity and connection. And whether it's your first time or your 100th time or your 1,000th time, does the math work? I think the math works on that. We hope that you'll find questions that stretch you and people to befriend you and liberal religious values that challenge you to love boldly and live justly and welcome radically. 2 announcements briefly. First, after the service today, if you're new, do come join myself and Rachel and Scott in the listening room back there. We'd love to get to know you better, answer any questions you might have. Second is, I am so delighted that our worship leader this morning is Dr. Emily Koriath, our music director. Yeah. I'm really lucky to get to work with you, and I'm excited to be in the service today. We are a promise-making and a promise-breaking and a promise-remaking people. We're not called to be perfect, but to be faithful. And so in that spirit, every week we speak this covenant out loud all together, a reminder of the promises we make in this gathered community. In person and online, will you join as one and say our covenant? Will rise if your body lets you. Take a hand if you'd like one. We gather in fellowship to seek truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it. Thank you. The chalice is a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. It is a cup of life, sustenance to quench our spirit's thirst. It is a cup of celebration and of resolve, a flame of hope, and a light to warm our souls and guide us home. I'd like to invite Michael Dryberg to light this morning's chalice.
Good morning. I'm Michael Dryberg. A lot of you know me as the guy that's in the AV room all the time, or as the guy that's singing with the choir all the time. And before I get started, I wanted to ask a quick question. How many people here watched the YouTube before they started coming here? Anyone? Like maybe 5 or 6 people. I was just interested in that. It has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about. But just because that's something I work on. I have an interest in it. Anyway, so getting to what I was going to talk about. So as I mentioned, I joined the choir here actually back in 2010, about a month and a half before I actually joined the church. So I've been in the choir longer than I've been a member of the church. At the time, I just really wanted to try singing in a choir, and it wasn't like I hadn't sang in a choir before. I'd taken a class before, and I kind of knew what it was like to sing in a choir. I'd also been in a rock band with my friends as a teenager. That was fun, and from between that time and the time I came back to this church, I really wasn't doing anything with music at all. I was more focused on raising my kids. And so I decided, that if I ever got involved in a church, I wanted to get involved with the choir and see how that goes. And it was more of just an experiment at the time. But what I found was I felt better after singing with the choir. It was so therapeutic for me that I didn't want to ever stop. It became this really important thing in my life. And at the time I joined this church, I should, mention that I was going through a hard time in my life. I was going through a divorce, and it was important to me at that time. But over time, I've come to find that there's like a lot of science-y kind of reasons why that is. And I think Emily's going to talk about this a little bit later, so I'm going to not go into it too much. But I decided to just ask ChatGPT, what happens when we sing? And it gave these 4 points, and one is physical changes. And I just learned this yesterday. Did you know that by singing together that your posture can improve? That blew my mind. It improves your brain activity. You will have improved cognitive function, and I know from my own experience that you get way better at math, because music is a lot of math. You don't think of it as that, but you will be so much better at fractions. You have no idea. Then the third point it gave was emotional and social effects, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And then the fourth one is health benefits, and this is another thing I just learned. There's some suggestion that singing together may actually improve our immune system. So these were all really, interesting things I learned. But going back to that third one, emotional and social effects, I just wanted to talk about my own experience and my own observation of how people interact with music. I feel like there's this attitude that you can use music to change your mood, and I think that's true. You can say, I want to feel happier, so I'll listen to a happier song. But I think a more important thing that I think people don't think about is that music can have the mood that you have, and that can make you feel so much better. A sad song, might make you sad, but if you're already sad, hearing a sad song that feels the way you feel can feel like a warm hug. So I just. That's pretty much what I wanted to talk about this morning. So I just want to thank this community for singing with me, and I think that by singing together, we become that one step closer to whole.
Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, one of my favorite sayings actually is, you sing the blues to get rid of the blues. And so we'll talk about all sorts of aspects of this mysterious thing that we do together. But first, I want to tell you a story. We know that music played a huge role in the American Civil Rights Movement and in protests of the war in Vietnam in the late 60s. And many of you lived through that time and know those songs in your very bones. What's fascinating to me is that in the tiny Baltic nation of Estonia, song was the weapon of choice when, between 1987 and 1991, Estonians collectively decided they wanted to end decades of Soviet occupation. Singing had always been a major unifying force for Estonians while they endured 50 years of Soviet rule after emancipating themselves from Soviet rule in the early 1800s. So in 1869, the Estonian people established a song festival. In their language, it's called Laulupidu. And the festival was considered responsible for fostering this national collective awakening. During the Soviet era from the late 1940s to 1991, the song festivals were co-opted by Russian government officials. And rather than being celebrations of Estonian culture, they were tied to communist holidays. Choirs in attendance were required to sing Russian propaganda songs and hymns of thanksgiving to Russia, just so they could also preserve the opportunity to sing the songs that were meaningful to them. In 1947, during the first song festival held after the initiation of Soviet occupation, Gustav Ernest Sachs wrote a tune set to the lyrics of a century-old national poem, Mu Isamaa on Minu Arm, Land of My Fathers, Land That I Love. Somehow the song miraculously slipped by Soviet censors, and for 50 years it was a musical statement of every Estonian's desire for freedom. The song was not allowed on the Song Festival program in the 1950s, but in the early 1960s, Estonians started defiantly singing the anthem against Soviet wishes. And by 1965, it was included in the program. At the 100th anniversary of the Song Festival in 1969, the massed choirs on stage, totaling 24,500 singers, and the gathered audience of over 100,000 people, began singing, Mu Isamaa on Minu Arm, in the face of stern Soviet orders to leave the stage. No one did. The Soviets had no choice but to act like this was their plan all along. They invited the composer of Mu Isamaa onto the stage to conduct a second performance of Mu Isamaa on Minu Arm to make it look like this was something that was sanctioned by the government. The song then began to be sung repeatedly in the face of authorities. There was nothing that the Soviets could do, including bringing out their own military band to try and play over the sound of the massed choir. It did not work. Mu Isamaa on Minu Arm became an unofficial anthem for Estonians during the occupation. At the end of each song festival, the United Choir performed the song in front of the standing audience with solemnity. At that time, it was also illegal to display an Estonian flag, and the crowd circumvented this order by flying. The Estonian flag is columns of blue, black, and white, and so they would fly individual banners, a blue, a black, and a white, to embody their national pride. The combined musicians, many of whom perform in authentic cultural dress, became the representatives of the people, embodying Estonia's best aspirations. This tradition of singing together in the Song Festival laid the groundwork for a movement known as the Singing Revolution that took place in July of 1988. When Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in 1985, Estonians began testing how much he really believed in glasnost, the idea of free speech. They wanted to see how far they could go without being punished. Grievances were aired in a publicly explosive and politically decisive manner. Widespread dissatisfaction with the Soviet system provoked mass demonstrations, and the systemic repression on dissidents, nationalists, religious communities, and ordinary people eased substantially toward the end of the 1980s as people became aware that military personnel would be brought in to sort of corral protesters, but people were not being arrested en masse the way they would have been in years prior. Momentum and courage grew, and the Estonians calculated that as long as they shed no blood, Gorbachev wouldn't be able to send in tanks to quash the demonstrations. Such blatant censorship would be an international embarrassment to his carefully cultivated image. So people pushed Moscow as far as they could, taking great care to stay nonviolent. In July of 1988, hundreds of thousands of people gathered at the Song Festival grounds to make political demands and sing their patriotic songs. The Estonian collective consciousness holds two beliefs related to the power of singing together. The first is that their anonymous rural population sang itself into nationhood in 1869. And the second confirms that in the late 1980s, the Estonian people sang themselves free and led to the liberation of their country in 1991. We, as Unitarian Universalists, also have a history of singing our way toward freedom. The first song that we're going to sing together was written by Holly Near, who is just a luminary of protest songs. She wrote this song after the assassinations of Harvey Milk, after the assassination of Harvey Milk, as a way to give voice and agency back to the gay community that he represented so fearlessly. So please rise in body or in spirit. We are going to sing number 170 in our hymnal. It's labeled in your hymnal as "We Are a Gentle, Angry People," but I think it's really important to recognize that Holly Near calls this song "Singing for Our Lives." And that's the message that I would love for us to hold as we join in song together. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together, It's in there. It's in there. Will you take a breath with me? Oh my goodness, do I need it today? At its best, singing is not just the oscillation of two tiny vocal folds in a tube. It's a full body experience, a set of vibrations that can be perceived throughout our living organism. It's the distillation of our life force, moving from us into the beyond and saying more than words can ever say. As Michael alluded to, science is now learning what millions of people have known for millennia. Singing heals our spiritual malaise. And also, in 2012, a team of investigators reported a significant decrease in anxiety and depression in cancer patients who were encouraged to sing. And similar positive effects have been reported for people suffering from illnesses, including arthritis and chronic pain. These positive effects are not just psychological, though the psychological effects are real, but they're rooted in measurable physiological responses, including, like Michael said, an increase in production of an immune system protein that helps us to fight infections. Studies have also shown that it's the imperfections in our singing that make it moving. Scientists studied all sorts of singers, from people singing collective folk songs that have been passed down through oral tradition and trained opera singers, and find that the common threads that make music meaningful are bending the pitch, coming in slightly under the pitch or slightly over the pitch until you land in the right spot. Intentionally cracking the voice that can resemble how we sound in grief or when we're sobbing. Coming in a little bit early or a little bit late in relation to the steady beat of the music. All of these imperfections give vibrancy and emotional life to what we contribute into the universe. Maybe not surprisingly, we don't always feel the same way when we listen to music recorded in a studio, especially in the current era in the world of auto-tune and correcting pitch and creating beautiful sonic worlds that somehow remove the humanity of imperfect singing. So that's also just a plug for being in the presence of live music whenever you can, because there's something magical that happens as you bring your presence and yourself into the presence of someone who's working to share something for the good of the collective. We share air together. We share vibrations, and we contribute to something larger than ourselves, even when you're just the listener. I shouldn't say just the listener, even when your role is as the listener. Will you take a breath with me? In this shared quiet, can you find the bench or the chair that is supporting your body? Can you feel that seat meeting you exactly where you are and supporting you? As you continue to draw your attention inward, see if you can notice the movement of your breath. Air moves in through your nose or your mouth, travels down your throat and into your lungs, where it traces an impossible network of branches in the lungs, ending in tiny little bubbles where gases are exchanged. The oxygen in the air around you is the same oxygen that feeds your being. Your body intuitively takes what it needs and releases the rest. In my work in treating people who have experienced trauma, we teach a lot of techniques for being in the body and for regulating emotion. One of the simplest tools we use when stress begins to accumulate in the body is invite people to let their exhales be longer than the inhales. The cheat code for this, of course, is to sing. You take a breath and expel it over the course of a phrase of music. As Michael mentioned, you can choose something to change you from the outside, or you can sing the blues to get rid of the blues. Listening to somebody who has captured some of what you're feeling reminds us that we're not alone. That this experience of living is simultaneously unimaginably glorious and heartbreaking. And all of that has been captured in song throughout the course of human history. And at its very simplest, air comes in, moves out as sound in this unguarded expression of your unique human heart. We'll start to sing together in just a few breaths. And I'd like to remind you that it's our imperfections that make our singing beautiful and meaningful. You can take your time if you're not quite ready to join in singing when the music starts. There is no wrong way to participate. If your voice gets tired, rest. If your voice feels strong, sing. If you want to listen to our collective contribution, listen. And as you sing, see if you can stay with your body. Can you feel your seat? Can you feel the movement of air? Can you trace vibrations through every fiber of your being? Breathe in, breathe I often tell my voice students that singing is a broadcast of your internal state. And in that way, it's directly related to our weekly ritual of making manifest our joys and sorrows in our shared stones ritual. I have so many papers. None of us are alone, though it may not feel that way. There is a thread that weaves through this gathered community of broken hearts, a fiber of compassion which comes from our deep knowing and holding and transforming of our own suffering and collective suffering. This thread ties us together as one, an unseen filament that connects every heart, breaking with joy and breaking with sorrow. Each week in the service, we set aside time in ritual to make visible the unseen interconnection of our hopes and concerns. For you gathered in person, I invite you to come forward as you feel so moved, starting with the back half of the room, then folks in front of the windows, and everyone in the front. Silently take a stone in token of everything that is on your heart and place it into the earth, resting in something larger than any of us, a community connected by the concern we carry. And if your concern is too heavy to carry alone, leave it here for us to carry with you. This week, we'll keep Alan Davis in our hearts as he prepares for eye surgery. We'll be thinking of you. I'll also place a stone. This past week has been Trans Week of Visibility, a celebration of every beautiful and divine trans, genderqueer, and non-binary soul. And this week culminates on Wednesday, November 20th, which is the International Trans Day of Visibility, when we hold in our hearts all of those trans, non-binary, and genderqueer folks who have been victims of violence, abuse, and oppression just for being their luminous selves. For all of our joy and all of our sadness, we hold this space in love and in solidarity. Spirit of life. You can stand if you want to. Come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. In this congregation, we're really good at breathing together. And one thing that I was struck by preparing this service is that we don't make time to feel the effect of our singing. So just give yourself a few breaths to notice how you are in this moment. Sometimes singing can activate energy in our body, which we feel as buzziness or tingling, maybe even a little bit of shaking somewhere. Sometimes singing regulates all of the movement of energy in our bodies, helping us to feel a little more settled, a little more present in the moment. There's no wrong answer. The noticing is the gift. Some of the most striking discoveries about the therapeutic effects of song involve singing together. Even at an amateur level, the act of blending your voice with others in song causes your brain to secrete the chemical oxytocin, which is the hormone that creates warm sensations of bonding, unity, and security that makes us feel cuddly toward human offspring and others we love. It can also infuse us with spiritual awe. The hormone oxytocin is found in all mammals, which suggests that it evolved as a way to encourage cooperation among each other and group bonding. In early humans, group singing seems to have evolved as a tool for encouraging social connection, for building loyalty, and for providing solace in moments of grief or pain. Science has also discovered that when we join together in song, our heartbeats begin to synchronize one to the other, just like human heart cells do in a petri dish. If you've ever seen footage of that, if you have two heart cells in a petri dish, they'll each sort of pulse to their own rhythm until they connect with one another and synchronize. So this divine human force is alive in us all the time. And when we join here together in song, we connect in a way that words could not possibly accomplish. I think this is the only time no, wait. Sorry. There's many squares on the... David doesn't like it when you call attention to the form of what you're doing. Just go. But it's also sort of like my identity as a teacher is that I'm like just unfailingly human in front of my students, which sort of changes our relationship to the vulnerability, right? So I don't mind telling you that I'm lost among my 99 papers. Because I'm just like you. I'm just like you. Okay.
We're beating together.
Yes, we're beating together and you're with me and I love that so much. See, you're listening too. It's great. Okay, now we are going to sing now. We're going to draw the circle wide. So this is the one that we taught you at the beginning of the service. And if you weren't in the room, fear not, it repeats a bunch. Please rise in body or in spirit as we synchronize our heartbeats. Stimulate our vagus nerves, which make it more possible for us to engage with each other socially and other amazing scientific things. Only I need my music, which is over here. Everything's fine. Okay. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Do that again. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Yeah. Draw the circle wide. Do that again. Draw the circle wide. Draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Well done.
Our religious and spiritual practice is not essentially a private, personal thing. there is that dimension to it. There's the work we do and have been doing all hour together to find ourselves and center ourselves, to notice what's going on in our body. All of that is practice. And that's not where it ends. Our tradition for centuries has called us to make our values real in the world. You know what a person believes, not by what they say, but by what they do. And in that spirit, each Sunday, we split our offering with nonprofits doing tangible work to make the world a better place. This month, it's Planned Parenthood Rocky Mountains. For at least 50 years, Unitarian Universalists have said that the very best person to make healthcare decisions about a woman's body is the woman whose body it is. It seems straightforward. That work is more important now than it has been in the last 50 years. And I invite you to give as generously as you're able. For those online, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. For us here in person, you can scan the QR code or make a donation as the ushers pass the baskets. May these gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to this Boulder community and beyond.
In Judaism and Christianity, the human voice is a metaphor for the soul. Because voice is produced by air leaving our lungs and traveling through our vocal folds and lips, it evokes the original act from Christian scriptures where God infused humans with life, literally inspiring, from the Latin inspirare, to blow into. One of my other favorite things that we do together is breathe together. We conspire, creating the future that we dream of. In Islam, life is also engendered by the inspired breath. The Quran calls it al-ruh, which also translates to soul. Allah blows al-ruh into a human when life begins, and al-ruh leaves the body at death. No wonder then that our singing, extended musical exhaling in community, has propelled religious ceremonies for centuries, making of each one of us a beautiful, breathing instrument of music created by the very spirit of life in its own image. Will you please rise in body or in spirit as we close in song? If you're the kind of person who likes making contact with others, this is a beautiful moment to join hands. And if you'd rather not, we respect your choice. I gave it to you on Thursday. We know it. We can sing it together. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all I rest in this love holding us. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. We rest in this love. One more time. We rest.